Tree and this is Stitchless TV. Now today I'm going to show you a really easy way to finish off the neckline and the armholes of a vest top or a vest dress. Now first of all, we have to work out the shape of our vest top or our vest dress, and I always use an existing garment that I like the shape of. So I've got this jogging vest top that I really like the shape of, so I'm going to use that. Now my existing top is stretchy, but the fabric that I'm using is a linen, so it doesn't really have any stretch unless I put it on the cross, and then it would have a stretch, but I'm not. So when I cut it, I need to bear that in mind. Now I'm using this pen so that it's really clear to you what I'm doing. Now when I draw it out, I'm drawing it out more or less the same size there, but I'm going to come up longer here because I know I'm not going to have that stretch in the length. And then I'm going to come across and I'm going to trace out the back, so I'm not dealing with the front at the moment. And then I'm just going to trace out this sort of shape for the back, and hopefully I'll be able to cut off all of the green pen. So do the same onto the other side as well. And then for the sides, I'm going to come out a lot extra on the sides because, like I said, it doesn't have any stretch, this linen. So I'm going to come out probably about an inch, 2 centimetres on the side, but I'll just sew it with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. Now I want I'm making it as a dress, and I want my dress to kind of come out a bit A-line. So I'm going to choose a point somewhere down here, and then I'm going to come up and meet that seam there, and then do exactly the same on the other side. So just coming up there like that. So at the moment this is just rough. And remember, you can make it bigger and then make it smaller, but you can't make it smaller and then bigger. And then I would continue that all the way down. Now, first of all, I'm just going to deal with the shape of the front, and my front comes down to here. So I'm going to hold my finger where I think about the middle is, and then just draw a mark there. Draw a mark at the side where the side goes to, and then sort of join them up as a kind of curve. And then come all the way up to the top. So that's going to be one side of my front. So then just do the same sort of thing on the other side as well. I'm trying not to get pen on my top. So I've got where it starts there, and then I'm just going to do a nice kind of curve. So that will be my front, and when I cut it out, I have to remember I'm just cutting out of one layer this shape, because that's just going to be the front. Now I've started cutting it out now, and I haven't cut out that shape that I created on the front top layer. I'm not going to cut that out until I've done all the sides. So I'm coming down the line that I drew, which is kind of graduating out to the sides because I want it kind of A-line but not too A-line. I'm going to have a slit, 2 slits up each side of my vest dress. So I'm going to put a notch that's going to be 64 centimetres down from the shoulder. So I put a little notch, little triangular notch in the side seam, and then do exactly the same on the other side. Now I've got lines, so I'll just mirror the lines on the other side. Right, now I'm ready to just shape that front piece. So however I drew it out, that's how I'm going to cut it. Now I'm only doing this to one layer, that's so important. Just following the line of the pen mark that I made, going around. Now if you were doing it, you could always fold over and mirror when you've cut out one side. For my back section, I think I want a kind of racerback. So I'm going to fold forward the the front, and I'm going to draw a slightly more exaggerated curve in on either side. So once you've cut your front neck out, if you fold that out the way, you can then do your back. Now I quite like my back having a racerback, so it's a little bit scary, but I'm going to roughly draw out a racerback. Now I don't know how this is going to sit because obviously it isn't stretchy fabric, so I'm going to do one side, cut it out, and then mirror it on the other side. And then I can take that over, put it, so I'm flipping it over and I'm lining it up. So I've just flipped it over and I'm just going to trace it out on the other side. Now the way in which we finish off the edge on this vest top dress is we're going to use this ribbing. So ribbing is just stretchy fabric folded in half along the stretch like that, and then you press it. Now when you press it you mustn't stretch it, and then what happens is we attach it onto all of the edges like that, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. Okay, put your fabric right sides together and just stitch up one shoulder using a straight stitch. Now when you've done that, you need to zigzag the edge or overlock it. And it should look like this. Just stitch up one shoulder looking like this. Now the more you do this method, the easier you'll find it is to do, because it isn't difficult, honestly. It's just a little bit of practice. So maybe practice on not your finished garment first. So we always leave an overhang. So I'm leaving an inch of an overhang. First of all, I'm getting it under the machine with the needling. Go backwards and forwards first a little bit, and then remember not to stretch the dress, but do really stretch the ribbing. So I'm stretching the ribbing, not the dress. I've got my sewing foot on the edge of the seam, the raw edge, and then I'm just doing it in little stages, little stretch now, but not at all stretching the one underneath. Now it's a really good idea before you actually stitch your ribbing onto your top or dress. It's a good idea to test out how much stretch it has, and also if you stretch it and steam it with an iron, if it stays in that shape, because you want it to stay in that shape. Because what happens is we attach it on, and then afterwards, after we've attached it, we then got to stretch it and steam it back into shape. So when you go around the bends, you usually need a little bit more stretch there. So the more acute the angle, the more stretch you need. So I just keep going until I get to the other shoulder. And then just go backwards and forwards at the end. Now when you trim off the ribbing, leave a long bit hanging off. You don't want to trim it to there. You want to leave like an inch hanging off. Now what you end up with is something that looks like this. It's all a bit kind of gathered and curly, but when you steam it back into shape, it all flattens out like that. Now if you find when you attached your ribbing that it's a bit wider in some places than the other, you can always go back in again and then just pinch a little bit more. Now you have a little bit of a scary job to do, and I recommend you do it with the ribbing underneath. If you've got an overlocker, then you're going to be okay. You just come along with your overlocker and trim it right back to about that. But if you don't have an overlocker, you've got to really carefully lay it on your hand as I'm doing, and then trim it back to about 2 mils. And then you need to zigzag that edge. Now as you zigzag the edge, stretch it out. Now before we do the armholes and close off the other shoulder seam, I want you to see how important it is, the pressing of it. Now as it is, it's all like a bit kind of bumpy and stuff. So what you have to do is you have to press the ribbing going away from you, keep the dress or the top in the shape, the finished shape that you want it to be. Now if I opened it out and just pulled it out straight like that as I was pressing it, then my neck would be all bumpy when it goes back into its curve. So you have to keep it in the curve, the correct curve, and stretch it back out. So stretch it out to the shape of how you cut that dress or top in the first place, and then you'll see it will lay really nicely. Look at that. So just do the same to the back as well. So it is like magic. It's really effective, gives a very professional finish. So now we've done that, we can put our open shoulder, the one that we left open, we can now close it by putting the fabric right sides together. So I'm going to line up my ribbing and line up my shoulder, and then just stitch it across and zigzag it. So look how good it looks. It looks really, really good. Now all we have to do now is we have to just go around the armholes at the back and at the front. Now what you do is you start at the front side seam or at the back side seam, and you just go all the way round and then all the way around, and just leave a little bit of an extra bit hanging off at the ends. You have zigzagged all your edges and pressed them away from the edge and press them into shape, not opening them out or anything, but keeping them in shape. And then you've got to admit that is a seriously professional looking garment, and I love the racer back. Now all you'd have to do now is just stitch up the sides, and that would be it. Your top or your dress is done. But for my dress today, I'm going to have slits up the side because it's kind of like a beach dress for me. So I'm going to overlock up each side first before I stitch up my sides. Right, my sides are overlocked now, so now I'm going to sew from the armpit to wherever my notch is, which is somewhere around here, and I'm going to sew with about a 1/2 inch seam allowance, which is about 1 centimetre and a bit, because when I stop here I'll then be pressing that back and stitching it down for the slits, you see. Now as usual, make sure your starting position is good and that your ribbing lines up. Now for me, I've got all these I've got all these stripes that I have to line up as well. So backwards and forwards at the beginning, and then just head all the way down. I'll be taking my time a little bit though to line up the stripes. Now that we've done that, we need to press open the side seams and keep pressing them, going all the way down, going all the way down where the opening is as well. So you press back a hem of about 1.5 centimetres, 1/2 inch. A couple of things that I'd like you to see here with the pressing. So for my slit, if you're doing slits, I press back a hem that is a little bit bigger than the actual seam allowance because it makes the opening more open, and I kind of like that. So I've pressed back a hem on the slit, I don't know, it's nearly 2 centimetres I suppose. Now also, the order of pressing, you press up your hem before you fold in the side. And what we're going to do is we're going to stitch the hem first, and then I'm going to stitch up the side seam of the slit, come across, and then go all the way down on the other side. So it's hem first, and we're stitching it that way round. See how we're stitching it from the top? And I've changed my thread to brown because I'm sewing on the brown line and I don't want a white line on top of the brown. So I'm just going to stitch straight across. Now because I've pressed it, it's like sewing paper. Look, I'm hardly having to hold it at all. Now look, that's so much better, isn't it, when you can't see the stitching? So do the same on the other hem as well. Right, we're now going to be stitching up the slits. We stitch on the top of the fabric and we can feel the hem underneath. So I'm just going to go backwards and forwards there, still not sure about my off-white thread. Right, once you reach the top of the slit, which is conveniently on the white stripe, you lift your needle, leave your needle in, lift up the foot, turn it, close the slit, you know, just hold it closed, and go across. And if you want, you can go backwards and forwards at that stress point. And then leave the needle in, lift up the foot. So you're going to turn and get ready to then just come back down again. And then backwards and forwards. So do the same on the other side. So that's it, slit's all done. I think that looks pretty neat, but I'm just going to give it one more press before I try it on the dummy. So look at that. Now I know you can't see the bottom, look, it goes on for ages, but beautifully finished, and I love it so much I had to put a Liberated by Stitchless label on it. But it's a very, very easy way to give something a kind of professional finish, and you can do any shape that you want. You could do it into a V, you could do a slash neck. As usual, there are lots and lots of possibilities. Thank you so much for watching Stitchless TV. Now if you decide to make a vest dress or a vest top and finish it off with ribbing, I would love to see your projects, so share them with me on my Facebook page, Stitchless TV Sewing Channel. See you again very soon. Bye.